Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C., the podcast where entrepreneurs, founders, and ambitious professionals come to learn from those who have walked the path, navigating challenges and achieving success. Whether it's thriving in business, pivoting, scaling for growth, fundraising, or finding work-life balance, dealing with loneliness, adversity, or overcoming personal struggles. Our guests share the insights and strategies that have empowered them to level up. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Kevin Dunlap. Kevin is an entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience who has built multiple businesses, including his latest venture, Optimal Performance Academy. Kevin helps entrepreneurs push their boundaries, gain exposure, and expand their businesses. We'll be exploring his entrepreneurial path, key lessons learned along the way, and how he's helping others unlock their full potential. Welcome, Kevin.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us. So before we get into the conversation, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I've been an entrepreneur since basically since 1999 when I got downsized from my last full-time corporate America job. And recently, about 2 years ago, I started a new business called Optimal Performance Academy, where I work with entrepreneurs and help them to expand their businesses by having them have more exposure to who they are. It could be through doing a podcast, it could be doing uh, public speaking, writing a book, or something along those lines. But stepping out of their comfort zone to get more exposure so that they can actually have more income coming into their business. That's what I do.
Awesome. So did you decide to go from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, the thing is, it's first of all, it's going to be a huge mindset shift because employees they're used to being told when to do things, what to do, how to do it. They're given a deadline. Whereas an entrepreneur, you're setting your own time frames. You may not work the 9 to 5 Monday through Friday time frame. It all depends on what kind of business that you're doing, and then what kind of and when are your clients available to be serviced.
So what made you decide to go from an employee to an entrepreneur?
Well, I was working on a project called Y2K as a computer programmer, and then I went on vacation, and I ended up taking my whole 2 weeks vacation because this was June, July, and then when I came back, my boss said, "Well, we're going to have to let you go, and by the way, you didn't earn that second week of vacation. We're going to take that out of your final paycheck, and by the way, your severance package is going to be a goose egg." So
Oh,
at that time, I got kind of angry at corporate America. I realized just how much corporate America is not a stable place to find money. Because look at anybody that's gotten downsized. And
mhm.
back then, when I or fired, back then when I was downsized, I was really angry. I ended up finding an opportunity in the newspaper. I thought it was another job, but it ended up being in a opportunity meeting for a network marketing company. And that's when I realized you don't have to be rich to become an entrepreneur. All you have to have is the right mindset, and that's when my mindset shifted, and then that began my 20 plus years of entrepreneurship.
Nice. I love it. So throughout your entrepreneurial journey, what pivotal moment or challenge stands out as the hardest lesson you've learned, and how did you overcome it?
Probably my biggest heart of my biggest lesson I learned at that time happened in, I think it was 2008 or 2009. And I was doing a real estate consultation business in Las Vegas, Nevada at the time. And that's when the housing bubble burst.
Mhm.
And my business at that time was I was helping people that could not get into a home through a lease option program, which basically it requires that program required appreciation. It's hard to find appreciation when the market is tanking 20-25%. And what I learned at that time is I have to be adaptable. I have to be able to shift with the times. I have to be able to like adjust whenever the business model has to change and it's not going to work anymore. You have to adjust. Same thing happened in COVID. When a lot of businesses went out of business because they didn't realize at that time maybe they had to go online or they had to do telework or remote operations. And you see a lot of businesses that thrived were the ones that had to shift their business model.
So if you could go back in time and change something from those early days, what would you change?
I would say probably
Why?
taking more chances.
Okay.
Um, because this is one of the things I talk about is that you have to your comfort zone. And one big adjustment that happened to me was in October 2009, and it was when I went to a real estate investors event. I think it was somewhere in California. Again, I was in Vegas at the time, and there's maybe 400 people at that event, and they were giving away two door prizes. So I
Okay.
said, I'll go ahead and see if getting a door prize. Now, everybody only got one ticket, so it's not one of those door prizes where hey, you can buy one ticket for $5, five tickets for 20. It wasn't one of those kinds of things. So everybody had equal opportunity, and I was the second one to win the door prize, and that door prize changed my life, and it also made me hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh,
And
what was
that
the door
door prize,
prize?
it was a flip camcorder. Those
Oh,
little camcorders that had the little button on the side of the USB cable comes out. That was one of the first portable pocket-sized camcorders. And I started recording videos of all of my houses. And so that I was a kind of an early adapter to YouTube doing something like that. And because I shot so many videos, and I was just shooting videos of the houses themselves. It wasn't like, hey, let me give you this little 10-minute advice. It was, okay, today we're at 123 Main Street. Then later on, we're at 678 Oxford Lane, or whatever it was. And I started shooting video of all of my lease ops in real estate. And because of that, people started knowing who I was. And I had all my houses on my website, and everybody was able to look at the videos, from wherever they were living. They could have been in Vegas, they could have been in Chicago. It didn't matter.
mm-hmm.
And that allowed them to know and like and trust me a lot more. And after shooting maybe 40, 50, 100, 150, 200 videos, I mean, it was that know, like, and trust was instantly there. If I would have known that would happen, I would have started doing that much earlier. I would have started doing that in 2004 when I started the business, 5 years earlier.
So
So that's
when you started doing that, were you like one of the first people who went that down that route with the camera, or were there other people doing it, or were you like an innovator in that space?
I think for me in Las Vegas, I was the innovator in that space because there were other people that shot videos and I
Mm,
made fun of them. Because I would actually, my video had three parts to it. Part number one, and I shot one and three back to back. I usually just rotated the tripod so I would have a different background.
mm,
And I would say, hey, today is, hello, my name is Kevin Dunn. We're trying Investment Group. Today we're at, and introduce the house. Like, here's the square footage, this is the location, all it. So I gave all the details, introduced the house. Then I would shoot what I call the tail slate, which was, well, thank you for taking a look at 123 Main Street. For more information about this home or any of our homes, go to, and I give my website, give my phone number. The middle one is where I would actually take a walking tour of the house. So I mean, I was holding the camera in my hand, and eventually when I moved my cell phone, I was holding my cell phone in landscape mode, going through the house. Like, okay, today we got 10-foot ceilings, we got 18-inch tile floors, and basically we're touring the house as if they were there with me. How
mm.
most other people did their videos, again, I always laughed about it, is that they would go into the living room and and I call it the sit and spin. They would just sit, they would go into the living room and do a 360 degree, and then they go into the kitchen, they do a 360 degree, or they just have images going through. And I say, no, coming from a film background, I understood how you could cheat a shot. It's like, you see in the film, somebody goes up to a door and you see them walking, getting out of the car and going up to the door. And then they all of a sudden they go inside the house. Well, the exterior was probably a real location, but the
Mm.
interior was on a soundstage. I know that. That's how they shoot film.
Yeah,
So if somebody's just sitting and spinning inside of a house, they could easily misrepresent the house. They could
right,
be at 123 Main Street pretending it's 789 Oxford Street. So I
right.
said, no, if I'm walking from the outside, I'm showing the house number, I'm walking through the house. This is one steady, continuous shot. And that way, people, even when I had to go upstairs, I'm walking upstairs, with the camcorder in my hand. I didn't cut any of that out. So it was all one shot. And I think that because of that subtleness, that is why people trusted me more back then, back in 2009 and later on.
So you basically made it more interactive and it allowed
Yes.
to get to know who you were and you were different. So it grew your business from a door prize.
Well, the thing was on my website, I would say if I had 25 homes that I was representing, if a house had a price change, I would highlight it green. If it was a new one on my website, it was highlighted yellow. If it was went under contract, it highlighted it pink. If it was sold, I left it red, and I left it red for 2 weeks. So somebody going to my website, they're seeing the activity. They're seeing it going, so they know I'm legit just because of the activity because of my website, and then the video just compounded upon that.
Right. So it's more
So
like an
that's
interactive experience, right? Like you can see the videos, you can go on your website and see a status of the properties, and so you're always sort of updated, and you know what's going on based on the
Well,
tools.
that was one part of it. The other part was I knew all about backlinks. So all my YouTube videos, they were all backlinked to the flyer on my website.
Yeah.
The advertising page went to the flyer on my website. And what happened after a couple of years, if somebody typed in my keywords, which was at least option Las Vegas or rent to own Las Vegas, I would appear on page one of Google. But not only one time, I was usually there 4 or 5 times, and at least two of them were my YouTube videos. So that was huge back then. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still huge now, and that's one of the things I promote. Is yeah, you could go do your Instagram, you could do whatever, but your Instagram, your Facebook Lives, your TikToks are not SEO searchable on Google or any of the other platforms. Your
Yeah.
YouTube is.
Yeah, that's true. So, your Optimal Performance Academy offers various training programs for entrepreneurs. Can you elaborate on what the participants can expect to gain from these programs in terms of skills, mindset, and practical knowledge?
Well, and, each because I've got more than a dozen programs now. We're coming up on 2 dozen programs, and I'm also offering new services as well. So depending what kind of entrepreneur that you are, we will tailor as to which program that you want to be. For an example, I used to be a realtor, so one of my ideal clients are people that are in the area of real estate. Now, what a realtor has to do versus what a gym teacher or a fitness coach, some of that is going to overlap and a lot of it's not going to overlap. So depending on which of whatever your specialty is, that we will recommend whichever program that we have.
Yeah.
Now, for an example, if you are a realtor, you should start shooting video. If you are a let's just call it a health guru, you should be getting on stage. You should be up there sharing your message on stage. So it all depends upon what kind of a business that they're running and where do they want to go with it.
Right. So if I know the business I'm in, I'm coming to you because I know the business. What can I expect that the skills I'm gonna get, the mindset and all the knowledge you're gonna provide me for me and my idea and where I'm at?
Yeah, so we are definitely going to be working on your mindset because one of the things that if you're a new entrepreneur, then we have to adjust your mindset, and that is very crucial. Because I mean, I was at an event even last night where I was just looking at the people like, oh my gosh, some of my stuff I need to really dumb it down. Not saying that's a negative thing. Is like I'm assuming that they're going to already know a lot of things, what they most likely they may not, and I just took it for granted because being self-employed for 20 years.
Right, right.
So my thing is when I'm working with the client is, where are you now? Where do you want to go? How can we start creating a game plan for you to get there? Now, you and the person sitting next to you may be at different levels. I mean,
Mhm.
I could be talking to you about, hey, let's talk about your transformational story. This is what you say on stage. This is what you say at networking event. Or the person next to you is like, that's what a part of my talk. So I don't need to know about that transformational story. Like, okay, so we have to be able to adjust that way. Now, one way that I look at it is my very first, let's just call it job, if you want to call it that, or one of my very first jobs after I got out of the Navy in the early 1990s, was working in the math lab at a junior college and also at a university. And I remember people coming to me like, "Hey, I need to learn how to add two fractions without a common denominator. How do you get common denominators?" Like, okay, so this is basic math. The next person comes to me and says, "How do you do this quadratic formula thing?" Then the next person says, "I've got this triple integral that has to do with that's in my Cal 2 class." So I have to be able to adjust depending on where they are at that point. And I know the person getting the common denominator, they may not understand basic skills. While the person in calculus, I would already make the assumption they know how to do all of that. So
Mm.
it all depends on where they are at that point in time, or at the point in time that we start doing work together.
Okay. From your vantage point, what is the most common mistake you observe entrepreneurs making, and how do you suggest they rectify or avoid it? Is there a
The
common?
biggest mistake, the biggest mistake is lack of clarity on what they do.
Okay.
So that's probably the biggest one is they really don't they can't really identify who their target market is because they say, well, everybody's my client. Like, yeah, that's the first sign of that you're going to be that you're going to fail.
Right.
Everybody's not your client. And even if everybody is your client, then your marketing, your market and messaging has to fit that ideal client. So you may have more than one ideal client, but how do you, I mean, what I say is if everybody's your client says, okay, the way that you talk to an 18-year-old, is it going to be the same way that you talk to a 78-year-old?
Right. Right.
No, it's not. So you have to get your messaging correct so you know how to properly target your ideal clients.
Yeah. And I mean,
That's
like,
the biggest mistake.
and selling for like business to business and business to consumer are also very different marketing strategies,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
so can we talk about that a little further? Like, what kind of a, like, what's your process that you go through with your customers to help them identify, hey, like, is that the first thing you do, identify what market they're going to be serving, or is it, where they're at? Do you help them put together a plan? Can you walk us through that?
Yes. Again, it all depends on where they are. But yes, we I first look at it as to what is it that you do. Getting very clear as to what service or services that you're going to be doing. Then we're going to be talking about who is the ideal client. I call it your specific audience because by saying the word specific in front of it, we get very clear that this is who that person is.
Mhm.
Then the next thing I try to identify is what problems that you're going to be solving. A lot of people and the thing is, once you understand what problems that they have, what is the problems from the perspective of the other person? Because the
Right.
problem for the other person may not actually be the problem that they're thinking about. It could be just a symptom of something else. So
Yeah.
we have to identify that. Once we know what the symptoms are from their perspective, now how do you start targeting those people? The symptom is what I call the specific problem, and then there's what I call the specific solution. Now, when you're coming up with your solutions, one of the things that I regularly talk on is that whenever you are solving a problem, most likely you're going to actually be solving a series of problems
Hmm.
because one problem will lead to another because they're going to be made up as much smaller ones. So you're going to be solving all of these in steps. My next thing is if you're really wanting to really grow your business, then you need to look at what are the major problems that you're going to be solving and how do they feed into each other.
Mm.
Yeah,
Right.
and I call that your spiral revenue model. So one problem, one major problem, you solve that problem, but that solution to that problem caused another problem. And
Yeah.
then for an example, the easiest one that I could probably relate to, the one I usually talk about in my webinars, is let's say you deal with men between 40 and 60 years old that are 40 pounds overweight.
Hmm.
You're a fitness coach. So you show them the eating habits, you show them the scales, you show them workout routines, you show them motivation. All of these are problems that they're going to have. So you're solving all of those problems. But what happens when that person's lost 40 pounds? And the next thing would be keeping them motivated. But the next big problem is, oh my gosh, all my clothes don't fit. Now I got to go buy a whole new wardrobe. Well, do
That's
you
not a
have
bad thing.
so do you have a solution to that problem? Now, the
Yeah.
thing is, maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you do, then that's going to be the next stage in your program. If you don't, guess what? You still can make money. You may ask, how do I make money from a problem I cannot solve? Easy. Find affiliate partnerships. So that person will now go to your affiliate that's going to and they will pay you a referral fee. So
Mm.
there's always easy solutions around this. And this is what we talk about. And this is what we try to work out when I'm working with these people.
Right. So I feel like what I'm hearing from you is there's always an opportunity, and the clothing is a really good example where maybe your services sort of end there, but you can connect with a clothing store or jewelry store and say, well, now we can affiliate, and I'm going to send clients your way, and I'm going to get paid, a percentage or a commission of all the clients I send your way, so you can continue building your business even after you've solved the problem.
And it's reciprocal. So that person, that's the
Yeah.
designer person. Like, well, I've got a client. Before I really wanted to get together with them, they said they wanted to lose 30 pounds. And I don't want to go buy you, so it's close. So let me refer people to you, so that and
Yeah.
then they come back. So
So
any kind of problem that you saw, I mean, the other thing I look at is, what if you're a woman that deals with women that are pregnant?
yeah.
And you're dealing with whatever the things that they're dealing with. But what happens after the baby's born? Well, that's no longer in your ballpark anymore. But the person that works with infants, or the people that sell cribs and things along those lines, that's the next, that could be your affiliate partner. So always be thinking about, whenever people are getting their problem solved, how can you capitalize on that, either through your own business or through a partnership.
do you find that people think that far ahead, or are they narrowed on this is the problem I'm solving right now, and they haven't even thought about the possibilities of more business that they could get from just that one problem down the road? Like, or do they start with A and then gradually come up with ideas for more revenue?
I think they don't think about it because they're mainly like
They're-
blinders on. There, this is what I do, and then whenever that client achieves the goal that they wanted, why they hired you in the first place, usually they don't think about going to the next level. Sometimes they do, but it's usually a few years down the road.
Mm,
But the thing is, you have to always be looking at how can I capitalize on this? Because let's say, for an example, Sonia, I came to you and I got great results. I mean, I could probably I'd be referring you, but do I already know, like, and trust you?
right.
If I got the results that I hired you for,
Yeah,
absolutely.
of
So,
course. Yeah.
so they're going to trust you, whatever you offer them next. So, hey, you liked my I call it the Get Fit for middle-aged men. Well, our next program, which is Dress for Success. And then it's like, okay, now you get your wardrobe. What's the next problem? Well, let's talk about getting you a raise. Let's talk about so let's go to and start working on on the
Yeah.
client's mindset to achieve more. So you can, that's why I call it a spiral model, because one thing spirals into the next one. And here's the funny thing. Let's say you have four programs, and somebody could come in at program two and then go on, because each program will stand on its own. Each program will have has its own ideal client.
Mm.
But you set it up in such a way that they naturally progress into each other.
I like that. I like that a lot. Where now you're making my brain like turn, because I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I have products that are solving this problem, and I've never really looked beyond that problem where it's like, okay, our software, I run tech companies, so I'm like, our software has served its purpose, right? Can I pivot into something else? Those are all things that I could think about, but really I'm like, okay, we've solved the problem. But now you're making me think, okay, well, how can I take it past that stage, and what other areas can we get into that's still solving problems, and we're not losing customers once we've solved the problem, right? Because your best they say that your best customers are your existing customers, because you can keep reselling
Exactly.
them, right? And I think that's the point you're making, where if you help your customers solve a problem, they trust you because you went through that journey with them and you helped them, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I really like that concept. So if people want to work with you, you sort of walk them through that thinking process, which is something that they're not necessarily thinking about.
They are almost never thinking about that, because they're mainly focused on, this is what I do, this is what I do. But think it they never take it to that next level. And that's what I'm not going to say we're going to have your whole gambit discovered in 1 hour meeting, but this is a process.
Yeah.
However, the thing is, it's now time to start thinking outside that box, or as Taco Bell says, think outside the bun.
I like it. I like it a lot, actually. I'm going to start applying it to myself. So, as a self-publishing author of multiple books, could you share a key takeaway or insight from one of your publications that you believe was profoundly impacted your entrepreneurial journey.
Okay, I want to talk about my first book, and I just talked about this a couple of days ago on another podcast. And the guy that I told it to, he had just published his first book, and he was like, "Oh my God, I know exactly what you mean." When I if you're going to be like writing a book or something along those lines, I want you to realize one thing. I want you, the listeners, to realize one thing. You're not the expert at everything. Done. Period.
Got it.
The thing is, if you're not the expert, hire an expert. Because what I did in my first book, and I'm going to say that this almost sounds dumb, but this is what happened in my first book. I didn't want to hire anybody else. I mean, I hired somebody to do my cover designs and stuff because I'm not a graphic designer. Is that I spent probably 3 weeks, and I'm talking about hours and hours of my day, trying to figure out how to do page numbers. Like, I just can't figure this out. I mean, I know how to do a page number in a Word document. That's it when you just add page number. But if you're writing a book and it's all one thing, your table of contents, your referrals and recommendations, your forward, your acknowledgments, all of that comes before chapter one, those are not numbered. And if they are numbered, they're going to be numbered in Roman numerals, counting backwards.
Oh no.
And then whenever you're doing each chapter, if you're doing it in the conventional way, writing a paperback book, if a page, the chapters usually begin on the right-hand side.
Mm.
Then so therefore they may end on the right-hand side, or they may end on the flip side on the left. If they end on the flip side on the left, usually that number is not paid. That is not numbered. There's no number on that page. Like, so I figure, okay, so I can break these things into chapter sections and like, what? I mean, I spent hours and hours, and then I hired somebody on Fiverr like $10 or $15 to format my book. Like, I spent probably a good 40 hours, maybe 50 hours, but I could hire somebody else for 15 minutes or for $15 and got it done within a day. Right? If you're not the expert, hire somebody. And that's just a very simple example of of being a book writer, of hiring somebody else. And now I after my second, third, and fourth books, um, when I write the book, I already know I need a formatter. I need somebody to do my cover design. I need somebody before somebody could do my cover design. I have to get it formatted to 6x9 or whatever sizes you're going to go, because I need to know the exact number of pages, because that's going to determine the width of the spine. So I
Mhm.
mean, all of these things. If you're not the expert, hire an expert. That's just enough said.
I feel like it's also very entrepreneurial um for founders to get stuck in doing way more than they should and things that they are not experts in, just because they're, number one, trying to save money. Number two, they are so attached to their idea or their business that they have a hard time letting go of tasks and passing them on to someone else, right? What is your advice to people that are trying to get there and you're like, hire an expert because they're gonna take 10 minutes versus you taking like a year to get something done? What is your advice to those people to sort of like not have to go through that and suffer along the way?
Well, here is a quote, not a quote, but here's a saying that I say all the time, especially more recently on the shows that I've been on. I go, going the free route is by far the most expensive way to go, by far. I want to format my own books. I don't want to pay somebody to do it. I want to do my own website, because I don't know anything about coding, but I'll figure it out. I'll go spend the next week watching YouTube videos and whatever. Or should I get a business coach? No, I don't want to get a business coach. They're too expensive. I'll figure this business thing out on my own. Like, get help. Be willing to invest into your business, because it will pay dividends. I mean, I did not get a real business coach until probably 2010-ish, 2011. But I started my business in 2004 when I first moved to Vegas. So that was how much revenue did I lose because of that 6 years?
Right, right. And I mean, you're new to business. It's not like you were running a business before then, right? So you're learning as you go. And if you're hiring the people who know what they're doing, you're also opening the opportunity to learn from them.
No, exactly. And if you happen to be a coach or something along those lines, providing a service, your potential clients are saying the exact same thing you're saying.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, as you aim to assist 100 entrepreneurs in becoming six-figure earners, what key principles or practices do you emphasize to facilitate their success?
What the first thing is, I mean, you have to be not only willing to invest in yourself, because that's probably one of the most key points. Is number two is to be willing to expand your comfort zone. Do
Mm.
things that you're not comfortable at. There's a saying that I heard a long time ago. It was you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I would say this when I started shooting videos in 2009. I mean, did I make mistakes? I made hundreds of mistakes. I mean, when I was like, hey, today we're at 123 Main Street. This house is located. Where is it located? Okay, now it's Jones and Durango. Okay. So I'm today we're at 123 Main Street on Jones and Durango. It's a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath. How many square footage is this? I mean, I messed up so many times. It is okay to make mistakes, especially if you're shooting video, because all they do is do a second take.
Yeah, that's true. And I
And the
mean,
thing is, if you think that you're not going to do something until you don't make a mistake, one of the first things I'm going to say is, has anybody heard of a guy by the name of Robert Downey Jr.? Have
mm,
you ever heard of him?
yes, that's a good,
Is he a multimillionaire?
yeah.
He's known for Iron Man and Sherlock Holmes. Those are the most two recent things that he did. Do you think he does a second take on any movie he does? Or does he always get it right the first time around? If a multi-millionaire professional makes mistakes, why is it so bothersome to you?
Yeah, I find too, like you can't, I find myself even, I've done this where it's like, you know, I have these ideas, I want to do something, and it's like I have to, in my brain, I have to wait until everything is ready and perfect to launch or go. And nothing happens. I don't launch anything, I don't start anything because it's I'm always waiting for perfection. So through my learning, because I do love to learn and I want to evolve, I'm now more of the mindset where it's like I just need to start because once I start, it's out there. And now I have to keep it going and I have to, adjust all the little things that need to be adjusted and keep perfecting my craft at whatever it is that I'm doing. But if you never launch and you never start, then you're always in the same place, right?
Well, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things, because I hired a book writing coach when I was writing my second book, I hired it in 2015. And because my second book came out in 2000, it took me a year to write my second book.
Mm.
And I remember one of and this for you wannabe authors, especially for you nonfiction authors, I definitely want you to hear every single word that I'm going to be saying here. And it's kind of what Sonia was saying as well. When you're starting to write a book, my coach said, start with chapter one. You have your outline, and so you can start, you know what you're going to be saying. And then you start writing the book. You do not make any grammatical corrections. You don't go back and say, well, let me rephrase this in chapter one. No, you write chapter one. Then guess what you do? You know what you do next? You write chapter two. Then you write chapter three. And then you write chapter four. And however many chapters that you're going to have, you write your first draft. Now, I'm not going to curse on your show because I don't want to make this explicit. But that first draft of your book is going to be the biggest piece of crap that you've ever written. It's going to be garbage, absolute horrible. But then you go back in second draft and you start moving things around. You start correcting your grammar. You doing it. Then you do your third draft. Maybe you do a fourth draft. Maybe you even do a fifth draft. But the thing is, by getting it done, getting that first draft done, then you got something to work with. If you're going to kill back, most people when they write a book, they're going to go and write chapter one. They'll go write chapter two. They'll begin chapter three. Let me go fix chapter one. They keep going back and forth. Like, no, absolutely not. Completely finish the first draft. When I wrote my fourth book, I was aiming for it to be about 45 to 60,000 words, which is going to be like a 200-page book. And after I wrote my first draft, I was already at like 65,000 words. Then I
Mm.
wrote the second. It ended up being over 90,000 words. It ended up being a 450-page book. My goal was to make it a 200 something page, but it
Wow.
ended up being twice as long as I thought it was going to be. But the thing was, I mean, I understand that concept of writing the first draft and whatever. And then after I wrote the first draft, I printed it. I mean, I put page numbers on there. Oddly enough, I put page numbers on there, and I printed. And then I went to the store and bought a red pen, and I just started moving things around. Like, okay, this is going to go here. And I'll put it like right in the margins. And sometimes I was actually put a little arrow going to the back of the book or the back of the sheet, or on the back of the sheet, and I wrote all this stuff down. And then I went and worked on my second draft. So that was how I was being able to be creative, not only being visually, but also tactile, because I had the paper in my hand. I had the page numbers in case I dropped the pages and they got all screwed up. So that's why I numbered the pages.
Wow, I like that. That's good. So lots of takeaways from this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on today and walking us through all of your know-how and where you've been, and hopefully people will learn from you and not make the same mistakes and look ahead a little bit further and when they're starting out their journey. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
I want to extend a thank you to Kevin for joining us today and sharing your insights on entrepreneurship, the importance of mindset shift, and strategies to grow and adapt in a constantly evolving business landscape. You've given our listeners plenty to think about, from embracing discomfort to solving problems with innovative solutions. And that's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of learning, growth, and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and connect with our community on social media. I'd love to hear your feedback, so leave a review and let me know what topics you'd want to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace challenges, adapt with tenacity, and keep pushing forward. Keep growing, keep pivoting, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more insightful conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.